This is Jesse Borrego. Come watch my new film, Phoenix, Oregon, at phoenixoregonmovie.com. And this is Inside Your Head.
Well, welcome to Inside Your Head. This is Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by Diedrich Bader of Office Space and Napoleon Dynamite, the voice of Batman, and the upcoming, well, actually it's out right now, Phoenix, Oregon. It's very cool to have you here.
Thank you very much.
Yes. So Phoenix, Oregon, it's out now. It's because we live in a very weird time right now, and so you can watch it at home. You basically go to the website phoenixoregonmovie.com, and you buy like a movie ticket, and you can watch it at home.
Yeah, totally. Because obviously it can't be in theaters, so they're trying a different kind of distribution. And a lot of people have really nice televisions anyway. So I mean, like big flat screen TVs are not the luxury thing that they once were. So, hopefully people will see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I talked about it before in the show, but for people who haven't listened to the previous interviews, could you give them an idea what the movie's about?
Okay, yeah. James LeGros, who's a fantastic actor, he's been around a really long time. He's been a friend of mine for 30 years, I'd say, and we've never actually worked together. But so this is a great opportunity for me. Anyway, James has been great in an incredible number of movies. He's like an indie god. Anyway, he plays a guy who's sort of down on his luck. He was wanted to write and draw comic books, and really creative guy, but ended up getting stuck in a dead end job working for a terrible boss in a restaurant that he hates. I'm the terrible boss, by the way, and James. Kind of bonds with the chef, who is like a really he's a really good chef, but he's not allowed to really express himself because of the manager, again the owner, myself, who's again truly awful, but he wants to express himself and make really good pizzas. Like he learns how to make the perfect dough, like and the toppings, and James's character really wants to open a bowling alley. So these two crazy kids get together and they open a bowling alley that also serves pizza, and it kind of unites the town and sort of lets both of them express themselves in a way where they've been stifled before. And one of the nice things about it is that the chef is a Latino guy, and James's character is accepted into this extended Latino family, and it's sort of a beautiful portrait of the warm embrace of a community like that. And I thought that particular part of the story is super interesting. But it's a really good, warm-hearted movie. The director Gary Lundgren is a old friend of mine and a really lovely writer, and he wrote a really beautiful piece, I think. I think a lot of people will associate with it. It's a little movie, don't expect any CGI, and shot over an incredibly short period of time. But I think it touches on something universally human. And
I agree. It's a very relatable movie.
Oh, you've seen it?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, cool. Oh, that's great. You're prepared. I love that.
Yes. Right. Yeah, prepared. Right. And there's, like you said, no CG. It's all practical pizzas in the movie. But no, it's a really good story that I think is really relatable.
And the bowling is actually bowling. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, really relatable movie. And everyone's great in it, including yourself. And
Thank you.
What I like, how do I say? I didn't want to say older actors, but because I'm an older guy myself. But but sometimes you watch a movie and it's all young adults, and that's fine. But it's more interesting to me to see the people that have lived a bit of a life, because I think they're more interesting people, which make them more interesting actors.
Yeah, and James has always been an interesting actor, but he's only gotten more complex. I mean, what's fascinating about watching James work is that you can't see the work. He's so effortless in what he does, but when you see it on the big screen, you realize, oh, that's everything. It's everything. He does it all. He's thinking everything, and it's just like Louis Armstrong. When he was a young guy, he played really fast and just would stick a ton of notes in there. And as he got older and older, he played fewer notes, but you realize that all of the notes were just the right ones. And I think that's what happens with James.
Mm-hmm. I think some of the characters could have been in like a different movie, would have been more like caricatures, like James' character and your character, but they're fleshed out where they're real people, and which makes the movies seem more realistic.
What's lovely about Gary's writing is that he'll always defy your expectations as to what a character is really like, because people are full of contradictions. And he allows that in his scripts. And most of the time, when you work with writers, especially when they have a bigger budget, they want a character to fit into a certain frame. It's just easier writing, and it's also easier for the audience, frankly. So it's really nice that Gary gives an actor an opportunity to play a full-rounded person. Yeah, my manager could have been just awful, but he's not the greatest guy. But what's interesting about him is that he's actually got his own problem. He's got his own problems, and Gary allows that to happen. And when he's losing at the bowling tournament, you get the fact that this guy, he really doesn't have much, and these guys walked off and left him without a cook and a head waiter, and things are not easy for him. So as you say, like in a bigger budget movie, you wouldn't be able to have those contradictions, and it's fascinating.
Yeah. So since you were friends with Gary and James beforehand, is that how you got involved in the movie?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. They gave a call. And for me to leave my family I don't like doing it. So I have to know that I'm going to have a good time. And it's going to be short. So, when Gary called, I was like, yeah, but not that many days, right? So we're going to shoot all my stuff. And he was like, oh yeah, no, that's the schedule. So it all worked out. I had a largely absentee father, who I love very much, but I didn't see a hell of a lot. Okay. And I swore to myself that I wouldn't be the same person. It's one of the reasons that I've largely stuck to doing television. It's because it shoots in town.
Right. Well, as soon as you said that, I thought maybe it's also it could be a reason why you did a lot of the voice acting, because I don't know how much that involves you leaving, for a long extended period of time.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when the kids were super little and life was just amazing, all I did was voiceovers, an occasional guest star spot, but all I did was voiceovers, because I would go in, except for Batman Brave and the Bold, where I read with all the actors, which was super fun. I'd ask that I went in alone so I could just bang it out in a couple of minutes like I did. I did, I think it was 4 Phineas and Ferbs in less than 20 minutes. So I just go in, bang them out, and then, leave. And then I get back to the kids, because it's super great. And I tried to schedule it around the time when they were both napping. All right. Yeah, it's that said, the only reason I was able to afford any of that was that I was on the Drew Carey Show for 9 years. So right. I don't want any dad listening to this thinking that they're not a good dad because they weren't able to do the same thing. Right. I could afford to not make that much during that time, because I had already made enough to take care of us, at least at a reasonable level, for a while, and make it through it till a time when the kids didn't want to hang out with me anymore. They were in school.
Yeah, it's a couple of things I want to ask you about that. One thing is, like, how did you become a voice actor? Like, besides having a very interesting voice, I guess. I don't know how someone would go into that. Do you just go to auditions like a normal like a physical acting job?
Yeah, I audition like crazy. Usually at my agents, they have a booth, and I walk in and I do it there. And for every 10, 15 auditions, you get one job. So the biggest part of the job is actually auditioning for the job, or trying to get the job. But that said, it started off with an offer by Jamie Thomason, and he was the one who really got my career started. He was a casting director, and he cast me because I was on camera on the Drew Carey Show, and he thought I had an interesting voice and brought me in. They're always interested in bringing, just to mix up the world, they're always interested in bringing in on-camera actors to do voiceovers, because it's a very small, very cloistered world of guys that work, guys obviously, and women, by me saying guys. It's a very small world of people that work all the time, so they try to mix it up a little bit and bring in some on-camera actors. Anyway, we had a good time. We liked each other, became friendly, and he's the one who kind of spread my name around and got my career started. And then Andrea Romano took it to the next level by casting me as a regular in the Zeta project. And she's a good friend of mine too. She's a lovely lady, and she also cast me in Batman: Brave and the Bold. So yeah, it's a number of people. As I said, it's all up to a very small world of casting directors. There's literally like 10 of them, and they do all the shows.
Yeah, that's what. Just when you actually do a voice, like how much is it like you're coming up with how you're going to actually sound, and like the direction from whoever's making the cartoon or whatever it is you're doing?
Yeah, so it's a shared thing. So you come in with if you auditioned, you come in basically with the character as is. But if you just got an offer, or you're a regular on the show doing another character, and then they want you to create a secondary character, it's this, you come up with what you do first, and then you sort of shape it from there. Like, the personality or the tone of the show, so you try to go from there. Let's see, for example, I had to do Ben 10, and I played a spider monkey on there, and D. Bradley Baker played the other spider monkey. So I listened to what Dee was doing, and I was lucky enough that Dee was there, and I listened to what he was doing, and so I did a variation based on that. Initially, I sounded too much like him, and then we kind of shifted it so it sounded like in the same world, because they're obviously both spider monkeys. So that's kind of it. It sort of shapes and morphs. Some people are better at adjusting than others. One of my favorite experiences in Hollywood period actually was this actor named John DiMaggio, who is a great voiceover actor. His creation of Aquaman happened right in front of me, and he had a very different voice when he came in, and then Andrea Romano and he sort of shaped it, and he went through 10 different versions of the voice, and then it was crazy because when he hit it, it just sounded like it was a voice that always was there, and we just sort of dusted it off, or it's like a sculpture coming out of the stone where you go, oh, that sculpture was always inside that stone. We just needed to release it. And when he said it, everybody in the room looked around like, oh my God, that's a great voice. And he became a big recurring part on Batman: Brave and the Bold because he was so fun to write for.
Mm-hmm. Do you always get to see the character before you do the voice? Because I would think that would help, shape what the voice is going to be.
Sometimes not. Sometimes the artist has created what he wants the character to be like, and he brings the sketch in, or she brings the sketch in and shows you. Other times it's really just on the page. They have a brief description. So you have to, in your mind, create what he's looking like. I mean, one of the fun things about doing voiceover is, a lot of people have the misunderstanding that, you're doing it to the animation, but they animate after you have created the voice. So it's really like playing. It's like when you're a little kid and you're with your friends and you create this whole world and you have these different voices and you have to create the whole world in your head. Animation is like that. And in that way, it's the closest to, the original time when you started acting as a child, or because everybody's acting together, and it's sort of beautiful that way.
Yeah. So someday I should actually get an animator on, because it'd be interesting to see if they animate around, how the voices sound, and kind of a reverse of what I just asked you.
Oh, totally. You should have James Tucker on. He's a great, intelligent guy. And I worked with him for years on Batman: Brave and the Bold, and he's super, super bright, and I think you'd be interested.
All right, that'd be very cool. So another thing I did want to ask too, because you said about doing the Drew Carey Show, that afforded you to do not work constantly, doing some TV and stuff. So the how has that changed over time with the rise of all the streaming websites? Because obviously there'd be more platforms to have to work on, but has that affected the pay, I guess, which I don't normally talk about, money on the show. Has
it affected the pay? Oh, yeah. It has. A lot of the streaming shows and a lot of the cable shows that just shoot for 10 episodes or whatever, they don't have much money, so they pay their actors very little. It's about artistic expression. It's about you having an ability to stretch out as an actor or do something that is different than what you would normally do. Network television still pays very, very well because they're still advertisers.
Yeah.
You know, when the revenue stream is just subscription based or has charges less to their advertisers for an airing, then there's just less revenue, period, for everyone. But yeah, I mean, that's why the Golden Ring is still a network television series, because it still pays well. I mean, it's not in the glory days, but nobody expects that.
Right. So Phoenix, Oregon, which is you can get and watch at home, which is really. Do you know, like right now, like what the feedback's been like? Or is it too early?
People that have seen it, that have reached out to me, have really liked it. I mean, you know, if you go in for an expectation that it's going to look like a standard Hollywood picture, it's not. It's just not going to. It's a very small movie. But those that really like independent cinema and appreciate like a small story, it's a very good, almost novelistic story. Lots of contradictions, lots of interesting characters, an unlikely love story that blooms in a very organic way. So I've gotten a lot of really great feedback from it. But that said, I'm really glad that it's finally able to reach a wider audience, because only people that have seen it have been in the festival circuit.
Yeah. Did you do any of the festivals yourself? I guess when because you didn't want to leave. You couldn't always.
No, I don't
get that
do
around
festivals. I mean, you know, I regret when Napoleon Dynamite was at Sundance. I didn't go. They invited me, but I didn't go because, you know, my kid was little, and I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. So, yeah, I mean, I'm a real crank about that. It's terrible. It has affected my career in a way that really frustrates my agent. I completely get their perspective. They want me to do all these things, and I'm like, no, that means I'd be out of town for 2 weeks, or no, that means I'll be out of town for 2 days even. Like, I don't know. It's just, I don't know. It's just, I don't want to repeat the mistakes of my father. He did a lot of things right. He's a great guy, but yeah, it just, I don't want to make the same mistakes.
I think that's really commendable. I mean, I don't always talk, but I grew up a single mom, and so I didn't even meet my father till like just circumstance. I ran into him at a video store, but
no kidding.
So no,
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah, and then he called me and he's like, "Do you know who this is?" And this sounds like I made it up. I really said, "You're nobody to me," and you know that was the last time I talked to me. But so I find that very commendable.
Oh, cool. Wow, thanks for saying
that. About that, like now, obviously you're happy and stuff, but was that ever hard to deal with? Kind of the balance of having a career and also wanting to be there for your kids and your family.
Oh yeah, I mean as we were saying earlier, there's nothing is black and white. There were things that I turned down that I would see later and go, oh God, why did I do that? But then 10 minutes later, I'd be holding my kid and thinking, oh yeah, this is why. So everything's good. But
right.
But yeah, I mean everything has its and especially since at the last turn down in the market in 2008, it's when I was at the absolute nadir of working on camera, and I was making very little money. And not that I needed to get to it right away, but to know that I had no backup was kind of an intense feeling that I hadn't felt in a very long time, luckily enough. So yeah, but I couldn't sell any stocks. Like I couldn't. Otherwise, I'd be losing that money. So yeah, that was an intense feeling. Like, oh my God, what have I done? I backed myself into this corner, but it turned out, I was okay. We just basically did what we're doing now, which is we didn't spend a lot of money. We didn't go on vacation. We didn't do a lot of things. So we didn't go out to dinner. We had friends over. That kind of stuff. We kind of just took it easy.
Mm-hmm. How are you coping with sorry to interrupt you there. How are you coping with today's world right now? With self.
Yeah, I mean, we're totally cloistered here. We're completely isolated. We haven't seen anyone in 2 weeks. I saw my good friend Kevin Conroy across the street like he just texted me and said I'm outside, and we talked to each other from across the street.
Right.
Yeah, but so life is strange. But I think it's important that we not spread the disease and try to contain it as much as we can, so that people that really need the emergency services can get them, and we don't flood the emergency room. So we're doing the best we can. But as a junkie for my kids, it's actually really great because I've got them.
Right.
They can't see their friends. They don't go to school. I just see them for lunch. I see them for breakfast. I see them for dinner, and it's just great. So for me, as a kid junkie, it's good.
Yeah.
But I just hope everybody is. I don't want to diminish the impact of the disease.
Of course. Yeah. I had to go to the ER because I actually cut my finger really bad chopping carrots.
Oh no.
Yeah, for beef stew, which I should make up a cooler story, but
yeah, you were fighting a ninja. Yeah,
right. Yeah, and it was literally like flapping over. It wasn't good, and so I was like, I guess I have to go because
you do. You got to get stitched up. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a really strange experience going there because they stop you at the door and they take your temperature right away, and my brother drove me over and they wouldn't let anyone else in, just the patient. And but everything went fine. But yeah, it was. It's just being there was pretty scary experience. Just seeing all the which is good they're taking all these precautions. But
it's really smart that they are. Yeah, I mean I think the group that's really taking this the most seriously is the medical. Is people that work in the medical field because they know the consequences of it. I don't know if half of America is taking it as seriously as it really should, but that's up to them, I guess. But anyway, yeah, I'd imagine that was very surreal. Even dropping off my dog had back surgery and had some staples, put in his back for it, and just getting the staples out was an experience because you drive up, you have to stay in the parking lot and then put the dog like in his little container by this little number, and the dogs were self-isolated too, and then the guy comes out and he's got gloves and a mask, and then takes the dog. You don't go in with the dog comes back. It was wild. It's really a different time. I mean, I've lived through a lot of different stuff, and this I've never experienced, so it's a fascinating time.
Yeah, I assume you're not making anything right now. Is anything really?
No, nobody is.
Right now? Yeah.
No, nobody is. I mean, I had to record. There's a thing called ADR, which is when you re-record dialogue that was recorded badly, or it doesn't fit when they get the animation back, or stuff like that. So I had to do some ADR for Harley Quinn, and I ended up recording it in my wife's closet because people are going into the studio to do the mixes, but they'll go in alone. And I will say. Kudos to all of the guys in post-production, the editors and the sound editors, and all of the guys that do music, because to go into the office now or to go into the studio now, I know must be a harrowing experience because you don't want to catch anything, and they're doing it. I mean, like for example, we finished our season of American Housewife, and they're still mixing it. So, kudos to them. They're going in every day.
Yeah. You mentioned the festival scene. When we talked about social scene, I had a short film in the festivals, and it was going to play this weekend. Thank you very much. And it was going to play. It was my first thing I've ever done, and so it was going to play this weekend at Boston Underground Film Festival, which was really special to me because I'm in Massachusetts, so it's local. My first festival I went to. And we actually filmed it there last year, but it's been canceled. Well, it's been postponed, so hopefully this will happen, sometime in the near future.
Yeah, just like the Olympics, it's going to come back. It's going to be fine. Everything is going to be fine. I mean, we will return to a normal life at some point.
Mm-hmm. So, how about Jesse Borrego, who I had on recently? It was a great interview, very interesting guy, and it's been in everything. And working with him on Phoenix, Oregon, what's he like?
Oh, Jesse is a serious character. Yeah, he's been around forever, since Fame, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a lovely guy. Lives in Texas with his family. Sweet, thoughtful, interesting guy. I really enjoyed working with him. We went out to dinner together. He's really nice, a good guy, and works in a very interesting way, very heavily improv-based. So he'll kind of wander around where he's getting to and then get to it at a certain take. And once he gets to it in that take, you're like, whoa, there it is. So yeah, he works very, very differently. Really interesting way of working.
Yeah. Is that what's that like to work with someone who has a different style than you? Like if someone's more improv, I don't know, maybe you're that way too. But if you have different styles, if someone's really has all the lines as as they are,
you're gonna have to swing with it. Everybody works differently. You have to swing with it. I'm hopefully as intuitive as the next guy, so I try to go with everybody's style. I mean, the jarring thing is when you first work with them and you realize, oh, this is how they work, like it's going to be different. My career has largely been in television, so that means that because of the discipline of television, you really only get like 2 or 3 takes with every setup. So generally, I am how I'm going to be for those first 3 takes. But then, like you'll see in Office Space, a lot of things were used from the 8th or 10th take because I'm so not used to it. So I'll do something where that's when my improv comes out, in other words. Like, I'll get bored with doing it the same way every time, and then just start throwing things in or changing it or, messing with the other actor in a way that hopefully is still a positive experience for them. So movies are different that way because you get Miss Congeniality 2 or something, you get like 20 takes. Mm-hmm. So you have to mix it up in order to make it entertaining even for yourself. Because if it's not entertaining for yourself, you're not entertaining anybody.
Right. Was it Drew Carey Show like that, since there were a lot of improv comedians on there?
Oh, yeah. We would improvise during the week a lot. By the time we got to the show, we would improvise just a little bit. But all week when we rehearsed, we would mix it up, especially with Ryan. When you're in a scene with Ryan Stiles, you better come ready to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you about Office Space. Kind of an odd question, though. I guess you wouldn't Google yourself. But have you ever noticed if you do Google your name, there's many pictures of you with like a really big mullet in the.
Oh yeah, totally.
In the photo.
I know that if you Google 2 chicks at the same time, that I come up.
All right.
Which is kind of strange search. Yeah. A friend of mine told me that, and I was like,
okay. I was wondering how you found this out. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh no, I was looking for 2 chicks. No, no, a friend of mine told me, and I was like, seriously? Because you would think like 2 ladies would come up, but nope.
Right. That's very interesting. So when that came out, Office Space, it's you big hit, but cult favorite, did you get recognized a lot after that? I guess how did that change things for you?
When it came out, I couldn't go to the premiere because it was Tuesday night and we were shooting the Drew Carey Show, so I was just doing the show. I couldn't do it. Yeah. And so I went opening weekend with my wife, and we were 2 of 3 people, and the 3rd person left about halfway through.
All right.
So it was a bomb when it came out, and it was one of the most searing.
More on VHS and DVD.
Oh yeah, totally. It was one of the most searing experiences of my life because it made me doubt myself. You do movies not for the money, but for the fun of it, and because you think, oh, this is going to be cool. I thought, I have no taste. My taste does not line up with America. I love this movie, but it's going to bomb, and it's going to do absolutely nothing for me and be totally forgotten. And I was really, really sad about it. And then 2 years later, my wife and I are driving downtown, and there's this, there's this truck pulls up, old 60s truck, beat up, pale blue thing. There's 2 guys with tats, and they poke each other, and they're looking over at me, and I give a little wave hey, how you doing? And they roll down the window and go, what'd you do if you had $1 million? And I went, 2 chicks at the same time, man. And they laughed like hell, and then the light changed, and they drove away. And I turned to my wife, and I went, that was weird. And my wife goes, that's Office Space, right? And I go, yeah. And then we drove in silence for a little bit, and she goes, what's happening with Office Space? And I go, I don't know. Uh-huh. And then more and more people would come up to me and ask me that exact same question. Or they would just, they wanted to hear different quotes from the movie. And I was like, what's going on with Office Space? And then I got a residual check, which was unbelievable. And I was like, oh my God, Comedy Central has never stopped airing Office Space. It's like the airings were crazy how many times they showed it. And then the sales on VHS and then, DVD, it just became this thing. But I still didn't watch it. And then 10 years after it was released, we did a 10th anniversary of Office Space at a screening in Austin where we shot it. And the whole cast and Mike came, with the exception of the number 1 and 2 on the call sheet. And they were there. And the screening sold out in like minutes or something, and people drove from all over. And it was like the Rocky Horror Picture Show in that everybody knew every line. And the laughter was like so huge, it would just cascade down the audience through the theater and then hit the screen and bounce back. It was just amazing. And that was the full journey of that movie, from a bomb where it was my wife and another guy who left, and then 10 years to that. So that's the only other time I saw it, and I don't think I'm ever going to see it again because it just can't top that experience.
Yeah. And I assume, is it weird to watch something with yourself in it?
Oh yeah, I'm constantly disappointed. In my head, I look like a young Sean Connery.
Right. No, I got it. Not that I've been in very many things, but when I was watching the short film with the festivals before, they couldn't go. It was not a fun experience at first. Going.
Oh no, it's a big disappointment because in your head you're like, I'm amazing.
Yeah. But I got laughs. So I was happy about that. I was it's very rewarding
to get a laugh. Yeah, absolutely. Right. And as an actor, you got to see a movie twice because you don't really know. The first time, the only thing you're doing is listening for your lines and see if you get your laugh. You got to go back to actually see the film.
Yeah.
But yeah. So no, it is an interesting experience. That said, I have watched all of American Housewife. Because it's something I can watch with my kids, so we sit down and watch it together, and that's fun.
Yeah. Along the lines though about like something so Office Space comes out, it bombs, and then it becomes like this cult hit. In a way, is that more fulfilling, even though like at first it's like really disappointing?
Well, it's a little like John Lennon's working class hero is something to be. Being a cult favorite is really, really cool. It's probably the coolest. And I think ultimately helps your career. But, obviously if a movie is more successful, it initially at its box office, it gets you more work.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that executives pay attention to. And it's frustrating as an actor because you get in the room because the creative people, the director, the writer, the casting director, have seen Office Space or other things, and they're like, this would be an interesting choice for us to go this way. Mm-hmm. And you get approval there. This has happened to me so many times, it's crazy. You get approval there, and they're like, okay, so they're going to go take your tape up to the next level. And what generally happens in my career is that then the executive looks at it and goes, yeah, but it bombed.
They just look at the numbers, yeah.
Yeah, the numbers are it's everything. It's everything they're fixated on. That's why actors that you don't necessarily think are so great, that are in these really big movies that make tons of money, they continue to work, even though they're okay. I mean, they're all right. But they're associated with success, financial success, not critical acclaim or, cult status. Cult status is super cool, in other words, but you can't monetize it.
Yeah. I always, I might be wrong here, but I always assume that someone who's artistic on the creative level, is it hard to have the balance between like being a creative artist and also the business sense of the movie business and show business?
Well, I mean, when you're a kid, you're all artistic sensibility, but as you get older, you have to make a living at it. So you have to put on your business cap at a certain level. We're a single income household, so I have to think about how to provide for my wife and children.
Yeah, and I guess that would, if you're a single person too, it like you said, being younger, you have a different thing. Also, being, if you're single and don't have people that depend on you.
Yeah, if you don't have dependents, you can do whatever you want. I'd be out of town constantly. When I started my career and before I met my wife, I was very rarely in town. Because it's fun to go on location. Location is great if you're not in a relationship, because you're not missing anybody. And it's different, and you meet a lot of new people. And I love talking to people that I don't know, and going to new cities and having experiences and all that. But then the joy of that is diminished when you're missing somebody, because you wanted to share it with somebody. Traveling is fantastic, but if you're alone and you're in a relationship, you keep seeing it through the prism of, I would love to be able to show the person that I love so much this experience that I'm having. And there's only so far that my story about this experience can take them,
Right. Mm-hmm. So since you're in both like a lot of independent stuff, like Phoenix, Oregon, and then also like a voice of Batman, and so you're on both kind of sides here, the rise of the superhero stuff and also independent films. So what are your thoughts on the rise of superhero movies and stories?
Well, I think they're extremely well made. I appreciate the way that they're crafted. I appreciate that they're kind of like myths. That said, you look at the 70s or even earlier, there are more complex characters, and they're closer to, humans. They have flaws, they have contradictions, it's just more interesting storytelling. But, everybody loves a myth, which is essentially what we're telling. They're super fun, and they're incredibly well made, and there is some complexity to some of the characters, but largely their motivations are pretty clear.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, like a lot of big budget, right now there's no theaters, but do you think a lot of because that's a lot of things people talk about, like the big budgets, the Marvel movies and stuff, that hurts other movies being able to be in the theater?
Oh, yeah. I think people's viewings habits have changed in a way that I don't think will ever go back. They're going to watch, you look at something like, Succession on HBO. It's as good as any movie ever was. It's a beautiful piece of work. Is there still going to be room for smaller movies? Yeah, there will be. I think people will still go to independent cinema, and I think that through cable and the rise of streaming, that that there's going to be the ability to see smaller productions that will still continue. But I think on the big screen, superhero movies are just dominating everything. And the problem with it is that the studios can no longer make these smaller movies. They're not interested in making movies that are shot between $5 and $15 million, because all of their money is eaten up with these budgets of $400, $500 million movies. There's only so much money to spend, in other words, and they're not interested in it. So there will always be like smaller venue, but there's not going to be the mid-level movies.
Yeah.
Which was frankly a lot of the entertainment industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm someone who when you can go to the theater, I go and see like pretty much everything I can go see. But I realize I'm in the minority. But
yeah, you're totally in the minority.
Yeah, and I go to see older movies, which even if you see the movie a bunch of times, seeing it on the big screen is it is for me a fun experience and the best way to see it.
Oh yeah, totally. You see something like The Third Man on the big screen, and it'll change your life. That's the way it's meant to be seen. It's a big canvas, and it wasn't made to be seen in a on postcard. But like I was saying earlier, the big screen television is it
is, yeah.
It's pretty good, and the sound system. It's not like when I first got a big screen TV, it was so expensive, and now I went to Best Buy or whatever, and I asked to see the the widescreen televisions, and they were like, well, that's all we got. And,
right, there are no other. Right, yeah,
yeah, and the price point was okay, and I just kept thinking, are you guys not showing me like the good stuff? Because it had been so long since I'd gone shopping. But then I realized, no, this is really it. And then I looked at the quality, and I thought, oh my God, it's so much better than what I have at home. So yeah, I mean, you know, you can get a theater-like experience. Now, the thing that's different, though, is sitting and watching with a group, which is super fun when you go to a comedy or, I mean, you know, that's why horror movies still work. I guess that's the only real mid-priced movie that still works as a theatrical experience for people, because it's fun to scream with everybody, you know, and it's like going on a roller coaster ride. It's pretty rare that you want to go on a roller coaster ride alone. You like hearing everybody else shouting, too.
Yeah. Yeah, those definitely are the two things. I'm a big horror movie. I'm just a movie fan, but
I know I'm getting that, and I love it.
Yeah, but I always mention that horror movies and comedy are the ones that are the best to be seen with like other people, because you're sharing an experience and you're either laughing or you're acting out.
Oh, totally.
And, you're not gonna do that in like a quiet drama, most likely.
Right, exactly. You're sitting in the dark with a bunch of other people. There is something beautiful about the communal experience of going through a drama together, but it's not the same as, let's say, you know, when I went to go see Austin Powers in the theater, and everybody is you know, going nuts laughing. It's just more fun.
Yeah, definitely. So, what made you want to get into acting? Was there like an actor or movie that like or show that you watched like and say, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this story before, but I'm happy to tell it again. So my dad worked for the Ford Foundation in Paris. So we moved to France when I was very little, and I was deeply alienated as a child because I was like, you know, just turned 3. I basically just learned to talk, and then all of a sudden, people are talking in a different language, so I had a hard time adjusting, and my parents made a deal where if my siblings took me, they could take as many of their friends as they wanted. My parents would pay the whole thing. So I went to go see movies all the time because all my siblings wanted to go to different films. Once I figured this out, I slimmed it down to the people that I really love, which was Buster Keaton, the Marx Brothers, Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, and especially Charlie Chaplin. And I worked up a little Charlie Chaplin act in my room in our apartment, and I went to go see a Charlie Chaplin movie with my fake aunt, and it was my favorite theater because they had live musical accompaniment. They had an organ player that played along, and that was super cool. Anyway, the film burned, and yeah, it got caught and burned, and the lights came up, and everybody booed, and I thought to myself, I was 5. I thought to myself, nobody boos Charlie Chaplin. And so I ran in between the screen and the audience, and I started doing my Charlie Chaplin act, and the organ player, who was fantastic, started playing with me. He gave me musical accompaniment to my act, which, you know, inspired me to take it in different ways. And anyway, I did a little roll, and I doffed my pantomime hat, and I got a standing ovation. And that was the moment where I decided I'm going to be an actor. If that hadn't happened, if the film hadn't gotten caught, I would probably be an academic like the rest of my siblings.
Right. Did the rest of your family, did they were they encouraging, since if they were academics, you pursuing the arts?
Yeah, they were great. I mean, that's what's so strange, is that they were completely outside my world, but always really supportive. My siblings particularly were fantastic. Yeah, I mean, they've always been great and supportive and really sweet, but know nothing about the business, which is actually super cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. You mentioned about the orchestra, by the way. One of my favorite experiences going to movies a few years ago for Halloween, they showed the original Phantom of the Opera with a live orchestra.
Great. I've seen it on the big screen, yeah.
Yeah, with the live orchestra, and it was just a wild experience.
Oh, no, it's really, really cool. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So do your siblings see your stuff, watch your movies, watch your TV shows?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think my parents ever did. I'm trying to think. No, I don't think they did. But my siblings have been fantastic. Yeah, all the way through.
All right. Mind if I ask some questions when I mentioned you're coming on the show? A lot of people send in some stuff here on social media.
Oh, no kidding. I love that.
All right. A lot of them are just saying they like you, which is very nice.
Oh, nice. That's very sweet.
Yeah. Will Bozarth, he said, it's not really a question, but he said, I met him randomly on the Henson lot after an improv puppet show by Brian Henson and others.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was really fun. Patton was there that night, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was good. Yeah.
Let's see. A lot of people asked about Jethro Bodine, so I guess.
Oh, hilarious!
Yeah.
Well, Jethro was fun because he was just a sweet guy. Initially, I kind of did an impression of what Jim Varney was doing, thinking that growing up without a dad, as Jethro did, that he would have kind of taken on the character of Jed, which would have been different from what Max did. But then the studio gave me notes saying that they didn't like that. I had just done it in a read-through, so I changed it to the sweet little boy that he ended up being. Yeah, it was fun. I enjoyed doing the Hillbillies. It was certainly a different experience working with all those stars. At first I was super intimidated, but then I realized they all have their own problems too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It does seem. I remember the first interview I did on the show was I don't know if you know who he is, Sid Haig. The horror guy. And it was the very first in 2006, and so it was a while ago. And I was a little nervous, obviously. And then, but he's just this really nice guy, very normal guy. He was watching, I think, House on TV, and I was like, oh, he's just a guy like everybody else. And
that's the thing. Most people are like that. I mean, it's rare that you meet someone that is outside of what you would expect someone normal to be like. But it does happen, but it isn't, I mean, there are some true characters that work in show business, and when you meet them, you're like, oh, okay, you're one of those. Yeah.
Even so every once in a while, because I had Ed Asner on, and before I was like, man, this is Ed Asner. This is like a real icon. I'm going to be but he was like
he's a legend.
Yeah, and he was like super nice and very funny, and
he's great. Yeah, we did a series together. He played my dad.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, in Center of the Universe. John Goodman, Gene Smart, Olympia Dukakis played my mom. John Goodman played my older brother. Yeah, it was fun.
When you were like, I know now, you've done a lot of things now, but when you would act with someone who had a lot more experience, like, do you just learn from them, just working with them?
Oh yeah, totally. I learned a lot from watching Dabney Coleman. Timing, and also it's okay for you to pick up a line if you have a problem with it and you're unhappy with how it goes, because the way they edit it, they're going to, you don't need to go all the way through the scene, in other words, as long as you've nailed it down and the other actor is comfortable with it, especially when it's a comedy. You don't nail a joke and you're on your coverage. In other words, it's your close-up. Just do it again.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. There's a lot of Jethro, but thank you for mentioning Jethro. But Jason. Well, someone did ask. I can't find it here, but did you meet Max Baer Jr. at all when you were playing Jethro?
He was doing a Beverly Hillbillies TV special shortly after we had finished shooting, and it was at CBS Television City, which is right down the street from the neighborhood I've lived basically this entire time. And he was. So I went and met him, and it was funny because I'm 6'2" and a little over 200 pounds, so I'm a pretty big guy. And when I was cast, everybody was like, "Yeah, but Max Baer is a really big guy," and I thought, I'm pretty big. I mean, I'm not small, especially when you look at other actors. Like I'm big in comparison to the other actors. Then I met Max. Holy shit, that guy's huge.
Really, because when I think about it, in my mind, he seems like you said, like a fairly big guy, but I don't think of him as like a giant guy. That's weird.
Well, that's because he's standing next to Buddy Ebsen, and Buddy Ebsen is like 6'5".
Right, yeah.
So people think I'm short because I was standing next to Ryan Stiles for so many years, but Ryan Stiles is 6'7". So, when you stand next to him, you're going to look small. But anyway, Max's hand is so enormous, it was like grabbing a ham. I mean, it's huge. And then I remembered, of course, his father was the heavyweight champion of the world. Right. And I thought, oh, my God, imagine if that's a fist and then it hits your face.
Yeah.
It's like getting smacked in the face with a ham.
Mm-hmm. Bad times, yeah. So I hope you didn't get in a fight with him.
No, but I stabbed him in the back. No, no, we got along really well. He was sweet to me.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, Jason Erickson wants to know, you think the lounge? You think he lounges? Do you think? I guess. Do you lounge around the house in those American flag Zubats from Napoleon Dynamite?
The one regret of my career is that I didn't ask for those pants.
All right. Well, maybe someone could find them for you.
Yeah. No. Jerusha, the costume director and the wife and co-writer, I think, of American. I'm sorry, I'm saying American Housewife of.
Napoleon
what are we talking about? Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah. She gave them to her brother. Her brother auctioned them off at some point.
Okay.
That's the sad tale of those pants.
Mm-hmm. Maddie Deering says, does anyone ever bring up the underrated Evil Alien Conquerors? She just watched it the other day.
Maddie is one of two people that have seen that movie. So not a lot of people bring that up. I had a good time. I got to work with my longtime friend, Chris Parnell. We went to North Carolina School of the Arts together. So having Chris on the picture was my pitch. And Chris, the director and writer, was a really super nice guy. I had a great time shooting it. I don't know how it holds up as a movie. There's one scene that I really like in it when I finally see, like, who I think is supposed to be a giant come in and confront me. I'm genuinely terrified, and that holds up to me. I'm glad people like it. I mean, I thought it was a great script.
Mm-hmm. Ken Spires, why haven't you played Billy in a Gremlins remake? He thinks you would be perfect.
I don't know. That's above my pay grade.
I'll put a word in for you, which will mean absolutely nothing. But I'll try to help. Paul just says he loves you in American Housewife. Melanie McCurdy, if there was any actor he could be on screen with, who would it be?
That's really interesting.
Chaplin.
Yeah, sure. Any actor in the history, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess he could be either way.
I really love Owen Wilson. I'd love to work with Owen Wilson. I think he's a really great, underrated comic actor. I think he's really brilliant. I don't know. I mean, there's so many actors I want to work with. It's kind of crazy. I would love to have worked with William Powell. Mm-hmm. I think William Powell was just an amazing actor, really funny and really true. I would have loved to have worked with Bogart and Cary Grant, and I would have loved to work with a ton of actresses. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing that keeps it interesting is mixing it up. And I have to say, I have been lucky in the last few years working with unbelievably talented people. 3 of whom are the leads of the shows that are just the best actors I've ever worked with, which is Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Pamela Adlon, and my girl Katie Mixon, who is really fantastic to work with. A truly great actress. I mean, the frustrating thing about being on a television show is they only use one take. Mm-hmm. If you could see how she acts take after take after take, it's just so much fun to work with her. It's crazy. Mm-hmm. Like, I get to work with her. So I'm lucky enough to work with people that are just so good, just so good. Working with Ed and working with John Goodman was also really great, and Gene Smart and all those guys. It was. I've been very, very lucky. I've been outclassed a ton of times. I loved working with Hugh Laurie, for example, on Veep. Like, I was a fan of his for an incredibly long period of time. And I'm sorry, the gardener is really loud. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear a little bit. Sorry.
It's not my gardener. It's a neighbor's. I'm going to go inside.
All right.
My son probably has slept enough at this point.
Right.
Anyway, yeah, I mean, working with Hugh Laurie, because I love bits of Fry and Laurie, the sketch show. I loved it a lot. And so to work with him was a great opportunity for me. And yeah, so that was fun. I don't know. I've been very lucky. I'm knock on wood. I've been lucky. So I hope to work with more great people in the future. But I will say that right now I'm working with incredible talent.
Mm-hmm. Nick wants to know some of your favorite memories of playing Oswald on the Drew Carey Show.
Oh, well, any time you get a chance to work with Ryan Stiles is a great opportunity. No, stop. Sorry, my dogs.
It's okay.
I would say probably the live shows were super fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, the live shows were super fun to do because we got to improvise. They would ring a bell, but it was also just fun to be in front of an audience, especially after the first year. The first year we had some really bad audiences because they didn't know the show, and some of them were just getting paid and just showed up. We had one audience that was half hemp society and half Marines.
Uh-huh.
And the Marines would only hoot when the Kate character, Krista Miller's character, came on. Other than that, they didn't laugh because think they thought laughing or something was maybe effeminate. I don't know. And the hemp society would laugh at every joke, but always too late. So you'd get like halfway through the next line, and then they would laugh. And then what was frustrating was we would do the scene twice in a row, and they would laugh at exactly the same time. In other words, it was the same joke, and they would still not get it until it was too late. and it was really frustrating. So that was a kind of a fun memory anyway.
Yeah. It's a very weird question. Loki wants to know, I want to know his IQ. They're very curious about your IQ.
Oh, I have no idea what it is. I'm not terribly clever. I know that.
That's weird. Lots of animated GIFs of you with the American flag pants.
Oh, sweet.
Very, very fun to see.
Yeah, sweet.
Jay Bradbury, do you prefer voice acting or live acting?
Well, when you get to work with somebody like Katie Mixon, live acting makes it more fun. I would say probably my favorite of the whole thing is doing a sitcom in front of a live audience because it's like doing a under-rehearsed play. I've done theater and once you get past the third week, it's like, okay, we're going to do this again, guys. So I have not had the most interesting theatrical career, but because I've been less interested in it. But being in front of a live audience with a sitcom where they know the characters and you can do these bits and then you can improvise is probably the most fun I've had in show business. Voiceovers is really great because you're surrounded by unbelievable talent. It's a really nice, sweet, supportive group that I am honored to be a part of, and I feel like an imposter every time I work with them. But working with on-camera stuff has its own appeal too. I mean, as I said, you get to work with somebody like Katie Mixon or Julia Louis-Dreyfus or Pam Adlon, and things are great. But other times, you're working with actors, and you're wondering why the hell you're there, and then you're there for 14 more hours, and so that can be kind of a drag, but you got to keep your eyes on the prize that you're feeding the kids because that pays the most of any of it. So yeah, I mean it all has different things, but I think probably my favorite is sitcom acting.
You get the immediate response, like you said. Let's see, Jay Pletz. Who's more fun to voice, Guy Gardner or Batman?
Batman is the greatest role ever. Nothing can ever top Batman. But Guy Gardner is fun to do. Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of characters that are really fun to do in the DC world. But yeah, I mean, the greatest part you'll ever play as a man is Batman.
Yeah, and you're in a short list of people who have portrayed Batman.
Yeah, I can actually honestly say I'm Batman.
And he adds, I'm a huge DC fan, and so Mr. Bader is right up there in the pantheon of great actors bringing these roles to life.
Oh, that's sweet. I love that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay. Just a couple more. A lot of people, it's just saying they like you in different things, but which is very good. Cool. But
great.
I just can't read them all, but very nice of them. Or I'll send them to you so you can see.
Yeah, please. I'd love that.
Yeah. Robert Budzinski. You already brought this up, but it's very funny. He says, "What would you do with $1 million?"
2 chicks at the same time. Yeah.
Right. And again, the last question here was about the Beverly Hillbillies, which seems a very favorite role of yours here amongst.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's kind of stuck around longer than I thought it would, considering it didn't do very well in the box office. A lot of people really love it. I mean, I get that all the time. It's kind of shocking because Well, number one, of course, it was like 25, 27 years ago, however long ago it was, and it still lives on for a lot of people. I guess movies that's the thing about movies, is that they tend to live longer than television. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. When you play a role on TV, and like, since you're that character for like so many years, is it harder to stop playing that character? Like after a while?
Oh, no.
Or is it easier, maybe? Okay.
No. It's every character is the same. It's just putting on a coat, and when you put on a coat that you put on a bunch of times, it's just easier. The Drew Carey Show guys used to make fun of me all the time because they would see me turn into Oswald, like flipping a switch. And they'd all just start laughing and tease me, like, nope, the idiot's back.
I love it. Yeah, I got to bring this up because I'm a very cool guy, and this is the proof here is I have a bunch of Masters of the Universe figures here underneath my computer screen, and one of them is Trapjaw, which I understand you're doing the voice of. Yeah,
totally. Yeah. That's thanks to Kevin Smith, who we met doing Jan Silent Bob Strike Back. He's a super nice guy. He's the executive producer and dialogue director, and I guess director. I don't really know, but this is his baby all the way. He's such a nice guy.
Yeah, that's interesting because does he write it, or is he like the producer?
I think he wrote the pilot episode, and then he runs the room for the rest of the episodes, and then he's there for all the records, and as I said, he's a super nice guy.
So I know you can't give probably too much away about it, but is it like Masters of the Universe with like a Kevin Smith kind of world to it, or is it more like what we would think of from Masters of the Universe?
I will leave that up to the publicists at Masters of the Universe. I will say it does have its own spin to it, and you're going to have to tune in. It's a high production value, that's for sure, so I don't think it's going to disappoint any fans.
All right, very good. I grew up with Masters of the Universe toys, and I'm very excited about that. And I had the Kevin Smith drink at the Star Wars bar, and when I was in LA in December, because I don't drink alcohol, and I was very happy because actually out in LA there's a lot of the bars have mocktails, so you can still get a cool drink if you don't drink alcohol. You don't have to just get
that's frustrating when you leave town because I'm work sober, so I don't drink while I'm working. So if you're on location for a while, that means you're sober for an awful while, and when you leave town, a lot of towns don't focus on that. Like, you can't go to a bar and order a drink that, other than soda water, that isn't booze.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's basically what I always have. I'll have a club soda and I'll be stupid, say I'll be crazy and have a lime in it or something. But
exactly. Yeah. But that's the only thing that still tastes like a drink. But in LA, actually, because there's so many people that are in AA and sober. There's also some that, of course, have just decided for other reasons. But anyway, they have you'll go to a restaurant and they'll have a ton of mocktails. It's actually really fun and nice.
Yeah, I also found it was easy to eat healthy, and I've lost 145 pounds in the last 15 months, so I tried to.
Oh my God, fantastic!
Thank you. And so I tried to eat healthy because I was making a movie out there, which it was hard. I have to say, it's very hard to eat on set because eat well on set because. It's basically just pretzels and stuff, and so I just gave up and say, well, I'm gonna have to eat poorly while we're making this, and then I'll go back. Yeah, but I know,
and also, like, I lose weight when I'm not working because I don't have snacks and I don't,
Yeah, but it's easy to eat healthy out there and still have good food. Where I live, if I just eat like healthy, it's basically like a salad. If I go out to eat, which you can't right now.
Oh, the range for healthy eating in Los Angeles is truly fantastic. You can actually be a vegan I'm not, but you can be a vegan in Los Angeles and eat very well. If you were to go on location, it would be hard to imagine how you could hold that up.
Yeah, because the movie I did, the people I did the movie with, they let me sleep at their house, but they're vegan. Sweet. And so it was all, so I had vegan, but honestly, I like, the only thing I probably would say I didn't love is the cheese on vegan pizza. But besides that, I thought everything was very good.
Nobody's nailed the cheese yet, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But you know that pea tendril thing that tastes like beef or whatever, that really does taste like beef.
Yeah, honestly, a lot of the stuff, like if I wouldn't have known it was vegan, I would have just thought it was, whatever it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I had jackfruit tacos, and I would have just thought that was like some type of pulled pork or carnitas or something.
Right. No, it tastes fine. It tastes really good, actually.
Yeah.
It's funny, but the Beyond Burger or Beyond whatever it's called, we got for my family, and my daughter, because she's never had red meat, actually doesn't like it.
Oh, really? That's it. That's actually very interesting.
Yeah, because it's supposed to approximate the taste of beef, but if you haven't had beef, it's too strong a flavor.
Right, yeah. I will say, like, at home, I try not to eat the artificial meats. I try to just eat the whole fruits, which I'm sure no one cares about this, but anyway, that's how I cook at home. But, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So, Phoenix, Oregon, I really enjoyed it. And not just because you're here. I really enjoyed it, which I had to stop saying because people listen to the show a lot. They've told me they pick up on that. And if I don't add, if you're not here, they think maybe I'm not being completely honest.
Being sincere, yeah.
But I can't tell someone like, your movie was whatever. But but no, Phoenix, Oregon's a really good movie, and it's a movie I like. It's relatable. A lot of great actors in it, and it's a nice story. It's actually a feel good movie, and not like a hokey movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I would highly recommend it, and it's been great to talk with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime.
All right, I'd love that.
This is Ed Asner, and you're listening to Inside Your